My name is Jennifer Faust. I would like to extend a special welcome to our visitors, in particular our Ohio Light Opera musicians. Please join me in the call to worship. As the church, we witness to the power of Christ's presence among us.
Jesus helps me in times of distress.
As world citizens, we witness to the power of Christ's presence around us.
Jesus is the one who sets things right.
As citizens of heaven, we witness to the power of Christ's Spirit throughout the cosmos.
Jesus is the one who calls me to be in harmony with eternal love and truth.
Good morning. This is a new song for us, but I think it's an important song. It really goes with today's scriptures. And our guest Ohio Light Opera people have offered to help to teach it to you and tell you. Okay, I bribed them. But I told them I wasn't singing after hearing them. So they're going to help us to introduce the song to you. But if you would go ahead and if you are able, please rise. They're going to sing the verse for you, and then they're going to be in charge of the refrain and things, and just jump in as you feel comfortable. If not, just enjoy the beautiful words and music. So we're going to sing the words together.
together in prayer. O God,
you have called us to be still, listen and act. Give us steadiness of mind and singularity of purpose. Amen.
We offer our thanks to God for the healing power of faith and for our peace in Christ. Come, just as you are, grateful for having come here today. Please take a moment to extend warm greetings to one another.
Hey, how's everybody doing today? All right, good. Hey, I got a big box of something right here. What do you think that is? Shoes. Look at this big box. This is a heavy box. I bet you guys can pick that up. So heavy. Why do you think I have all those shoes here today? Because I was wearing them? I was sporting. Look at that. Look at that. That's like what does it say there? Survivor boot. Look at that. It's got a bear on it. Got all kinds of different boots in here. Why do you think I have a box of boots at the church? For feet? Yeah. Look at these shoes. You think I wore those shoes? No? Think I wore these shoes? Huh? Girl shoes. Oh, I thought we could wear anything. Got tennis shoes, don't we? What do they call these? Remember what they call them? Dress shoes. I don't know. What do they call those? Croc kind of thing, like, this is a harder bottom, so. But somebody might need that, right? How many pairs of shoes do you guys have? Do you know? 10? Okay. About 8,000? Okay. You have a big closet, right? There probably aren't some people in the world who have 8,000 shoes, actually. Now everybody in the world, you think. But I have these shoes because there are some people that actually walk around Worcester and they really do not have anything. They don't even have shoes for their feet. And what do you think the big problem is? Why do you think I have so many shoes? Because everybody's foot's a different size. Did you ever notice that? What do you think? You guys want to try that shoe on? You think it'll fit? See if your foot will fit in that shoe. You think it will? No? I don't think so either. I think it'll be hard to walk in there. But everybody has a different size shoe. And one thing we do is we walk around. So sometimes we don't think about it, but there are some people who don't even have shoes in this world. But we all walk somewhere. When's the last time you guys took a walk just to take a walk? Do you ever do that? You ever go out walking in the woods or you walk down the street or something? No? It's kind of fun to do that. I love taking a walk around because Grandma lives in the woods. Okay, all right. So you can walk around Grandma's house. See, that's fun though, isn't it? Because you never know what you're going to see or who you're going to see. And you know what? That's what Jesus did. He just walked around and talked to people, which is really pretty cool because you never know who you meet. And he made a lot of friends. And he talked about walking everywhere. And he had these 12 disciples that followed along behind him. And they probably had sandals on, right? Because Jesus' time. You ever see a picture, a painting of Jesus? Huh? Jesus knows everybody. Yeah. And so I hope that sometime you ask your parents just to go for a walk somewhere. Because it's really surprising that you'll see bugs that you never saw before and birds that you never saw before. And you'll meet all kinds of people. And that's what Jesus wanted to do, and that's why he walked around. He wanted to have a lot of friends and to meet a lot of people. So I hope you guys think about the shoes you wear and where you go in them and what you do with your family this summer. But I hope you take some really nice walks out in the woods and around nice areas. So I want to thank you guys for coming up because it's summer already. You guys are having fun? All right. Well, before you go, let's have a word of prayer. Lord God, it's a great thing for us to gather together. We know how you look down upon each one of us as your precious children. And we thank you for the example that our children are for us of faith and hope and all good things. And we ask that you bless them and their families, that you keep them safe and help them to live and grow and take joy in every day. Bless these children as they go out and enjoy this summer season. Continue to watch over them. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Okay, thanks for coming up.
Today's scripture reading is from 2 Kings, chapter 2, verses 1 through 14, from the translation The Message. Please join me in the bold print. Just before God took Elijah to heaven in a whirlwind, Elijah and Elisha were walking together out of Gilgal. Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here. God has sent me on a mission to Bethel." Elisha said, "Not on your life, I'm not letting you out of my sight."
So they both went to Bethel.
The guild of prophets at Bethel met Elisha and said, "Did you know that God is going to take your master away from you today?" "Yes," he said, "I know it, but I don't want to hear it." Then Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here. God has sent me on a mission to Jericho." Elisha said, "Not on your life. I'm not letting you out of my sight."
So they both went to Jericho.
The guild of prophets at Jericho came to Elisha and said, "Did you know that God is going to take your master away from you today?" "Yes," he said, "I know it, but I don't want to hear it." Then Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here. God has sent me on a mission to the Jordan." Elisha said, "Not on your life. I'm not letting you out of my sight." And so the two of them went their ways together. Meanwhile, 50 men from the guild of prophets gathered some distance away, while the two of them stood at the Jordan. Elijah took his cloak, rolled it up, and hit the water with it. The river divided, and the two men walked through on dry land. When they reached the other side, Elijah said to Elisha, "What can I do for you before I'm taken from you? Ask anything." Elisha said, "Your life repeated my life. I want to be a holy man just like you." "That's a hard one," said Elijah. "But if you're watching when I'm taken from you, you'll get what you've asked for, but only if you're watching." And so it happened. They were walking along and talking. Suddenly, a chariot and horses of fire came between them, and Elijah went up in a whirlwind to heaven. Elisha saw it all and shouted, my father, you are the chariots and cavalry of Israel." When he could no longer see anything, he grabbed his robe and ripped it to pieces. Then he picked up Elijah's cloak that had fallen from him, returned to the shore of the Jordan, and stood there. He took Elijah's cloak, all that was left of Elijah, and hit the river with it, saying, "Now where is the God of Elijah? Where is he?" When he struck the water, the river divided, and Elisha walked through. The word of the Lord.
Thank
song when we use it before communion. We'll use it next Sunday before communion because it says a lot, right? It says a lot about who we are, about an open and affirming and welcoming community. And, we always have to make our faith personal. And I learned when I was, my kids were little, that I would sing those songs to them, and it makes a big difference if you, perhaps when you sing this song, if you have someone in your life that you feel needs to hear this message, that you imagine in your mind that you're singing this song to them personally, then it takes on new meaning. And it's really cool how when we look specifically at an individual and we address them in the faith and say, come just as you are, that there's some special connection there in our minds between a real person and the words that we're singing. And I hope also that you take this to heart for yourself, come just as you are, because it really symbolizes something about the way that Jesus led his ministry. So today, I wanted to give you the logo, of the United Church of Christ's General Synod, which ended this Thursday. Gary Friend, Abby Reed were both there. It was held in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and their theme was Shine. Let your light shine before others. And it kind of works today also for us to think about how much Elijah was a bright light for the people of Israel, and how someone like his friend Elisha saw in him a mentor and someone that he admired, and he would never leave him. So this is our story today, something about loyalty, and the loyalty that we all have to one another, United Church of Christ and beyond, to be up and about creating that world that we're here to talk about. Now this is our German Youth Mission Group, and I've tried to kind of fill you in on that every week and what's happening. And we're counting down 7 days now, really, before they will be in the States. We have a sister church partnership with Stephanus Evangelical Church of the Union in Borchen, Germany. We've had that relationship for a couple of years now. And a group of us went over to Germany last fall, and we were really hosted very well by folks there. We stayed in a conference center for a while with a civil rights conference, and we talked to some of the members and pastors of the churches in the Evangelical Church of the Union. And then we stayed in people's homes in Germany. And so what they're doing is bringing this group of youth over. This looks like one of our mission trip photos, right? And Sabina's in the middle with her hand up there. It's Pastor Zabina Zarka. And on July 14th, we will all be at the picnic at Christmas Run Park. And they're going to do some special things in that service and partially lead that service. So I hope you come. It'll be a lot of fun. It will mean a lot to them. It means a lot to them because we're bringing 9 youth over, and none of the 9 youth have ever been in the States before. And so I'm getting notes and emails about how excited they are about seeing our culture. So this next Saturday, they're going to be traveling to Baltimore and then down to D.C. And I'm going to meet them there in D.C., and we're going to do mission work in D.C., and then tour some of the historic spots in D.C. while we're there. They will be in Worcester the following Saturday, July 13th. They'll come to the picnic on the morning of the 14th, and they will be with us for Monday and Tuesday. Because of the German heritage, now here's the catch. Everything comes full circle, okay? And the full circle is that those first farmers who came to Wayne County were from Westphalia, where we have this church partnership. So it was the people who lived in Westphalia who came here in the early 1800s and chartered this church in 1819, and the German culture that continues to exist, which you could say that we wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for the passion for making the world a better place that they had in Westphalia, Germany, and still continue to have the same kind of mission that we do here. It's amazing that all that space, that mission has continued on among the Evangelical Church of the Union and among the United Church of Christ now. It's a fantastic thing. So, what would you want to do if you came from Wayne County, German heritage? You go to Amish country. There you go. So Zabina and Manuela, when they were there in the fall, they went down and they had a great opportunity to talk to David Klein. Herb Broda arranged a conversation. And they did pretty well, wouldn't you say, in terms of language? I'm terrible at language. That's why I'm hold up with world stuff. Is I don't get it, you know. There's that thing in your brain that gets it or it doesn't get it. It's very difficult for me. But they were very gracious when we were there, and they had interpreters ready for us. Now, some of the youth are just learning English, so keep that in mind when you talk to them in 2 weeks. But they're excited about being here and closing the circle to bring history back together again. And we can be up and about that kind of ministry. So anyway, that's a brief sketch of what we're doing. On Wednesday, I'm taking them to Vermilion because we have in the Ohio Conference a German partnership. And so there are other churches that have sister churches. And they're going to have a picnic up there on Wednesday. And then if you're a youth and you come to Ohio, what do you want to see? Oh man, you guys are good. Where were you guys when I was planning this trip? I mean, you guys, I could have come with a pen and paper on Sunday morning. Let's see, Cedar Point, yeah, but you know, that's what they want to do. So then, just by chance, the Indians are in town, so I think they ought to see an Indians game. That's one of the cultural things. I'm a sacrifice. So that's one of the things we're going to do. And then they go back the next Saturday. But anyway, when you're here, hope you take the time out to get to know them and see them, because we've had a great time when we get together, because it always feels good to have those kinds of partners that are doing the same kinds of things that you're doing, and that there are people there that are working with the same kinds of environmental issues and same kinds of justice and peace and immigration stuff that we have here. And so that's what's happening, and that's the group. So come just as you are. With the conference, they said, why is what you are doing important to God? And they wanted us to bring that back to our congregations and to our people, and yet you to begin to think about that. Why is what we are doing important to God? Now, we have a wonderful story today from the Old Testament where Elisha has been learning from Elijah, and he is determined to be all in. He is determined not to miss a thing. And I'm glad that Jennifer got into the spirit of the reading, because you should play with Scripture and have fun with it and see the drama and the dialogue in it. Did you notice how Elijah is trying to shake Elisha? And how he's saying, no, you stay here and I'm going to go ahead, because he knows he's going to leave pretty soon. But Elisha will have nothing of it, because he so admires Elijah and he wants to walk in his footsteps and to pick up Elijah's mantle of doing good in the world and making a difference. And I hope that when we come together, you want to pick up the mantle of those people who've gone before us doing good and making a difference in the world. So today, this morning, I want to encourage you to pick up the mantle. If you think about someone in your life that you know, or someone here at the church that has inspired you, that you wish that you could be up and about those kinds of things, I want to encourage you today to pick up their mantle. Could be something that maybe they're gone now, and that good thing they were doing in the world has been dropped. I would encourage you to think about whose mantle you have picked up. So I got to thinking about this, and I try to be visual in sermons, and I try to give you images that might stick in your mind. So I want you to think about how it feels when you wear other people's clothing. Did you ever do that? I mean, I know some siblings have to do this. My sons had to do that. They had to like the same stuff. But have you ever, worn somebody else's clothing? It feels different. Feels kind of weird. Some of us, like when my dad died, we were the same size, and Mom gave me a bunch of clothes. But that was comforting for me, being his clothes, being his shoes. Kind of gave me a certain power of that relationship, that spirit. So here's this guy, Elijah going up into heaven, and he throws off his mantle, throws off his cloak, and Elisha runs over and puts it on. You imagine the feeling that he had. Now he's the one to do those kinds of things. He had this enthusiasm for the way he lived his life. Now think about how you feel when you put on different clothes to do something special. Now we were talking about this in adult Sunday school one time, and I asked that question, when do you change your clothes so you go someplace special? What do you think they said? Church, maybe? Yeah. Well, the answer they gave that day was an Ohio State football game. You dress up in what color? And what does it say on your hat? O-H-I-O, right? When we're excited about something, we participate fully in it, and we clothe ourselves with it. We cover ourselves with that. Elijah was covering himself with the spirit of doing good in the world that lived in Elijah. And 700 years later, a man by the name of John the Baptist was so enthusiastic about these scriptures, and he so admired the prophet Elijah and the legend that grew up about Elijah, that if anyone was ever in trouble, Elijah would come back and save them. If they'd ever been treated unjustly, Elijah would come down and rescue them at the right moment. That John the Baptist went to the local Halloween store and he bought a Elijah costume, which consisted of camel's hair, a staff, and he ate locusts and wild honey. Now that's devotion, right? He wanted to be just like Elijah, and it was a symbol that he was going to bring justice back. And so John the Baptist, coming out in the wilderness, a whole bunch of people, they're going through the Jordan River. We had it in our passage today. John the Baptist even went back to the Jordan River. And who did Jesus go to? He went to John the Baptist in the Jordan River. And Jesus was inspired by John the Baptist. I always feel great when we have activities in the church that honor a specific person's life. And I think that's so great. And some of the celebrations that I remember most are birthday parties. And so some of you might remember the birthday party that we gave for Glenn Royer when he turned 90. Remember that? We had a jazz band, and we had speakers come in, and we had his son surprise him by coming from a long distance to come down here. They sang a song. They had a guitar and everything. How about when Ed Shirk had his birthday party in Fellowship Hall? Remember that? Remember all the people that came down there? What about Mary Soliday? Remember Mary Soliday? She had that big birthday party. She'd been sick. She fell. But she really worked hard at the physical rehab because she had that birthday coming up. She knew she had a party that she was going to come to. And we laid out a big book on the table, and people wrote all sorts of positive affirmations for them. Do you remember those folks? Do you remember those folks who had a mantle in the congregation? The enthusiasm and the grace and the good nature of Mary Soliday. Wouldn't you want a double portion of that spirit? Wouldn't you want to have a double portion of Ed Shirk's energy and his care and concern for the church? Wouldn't you want to have a double portion of Glenn Royer's faith? That's what this is about. It's about being lifted up by the family of faith, grabbing hold of that mantle, saying, I know these people. I've seen these things. I can do these things. I want to pick up that mantle. I want to live it. And so, when Elijah was taken up into heaven, if you remember, the qualification was that Elisha had to see him going up into heaven, which I'm not really sure what to think of that part of it. But it's an interesting feature, right? And what does Elisha say when he sees Elijah go up into heaven? My father, the chariots and horsemen of Israel. Now, for most people, that sounds like a very odd thing to say. But it really is a way for Elisha to honor Elijah. And to say that you are more important for the peace of Israel than all of our horsemen and chariots. And I want to say to you that the work that we do together in the church is more important than all of the things that we do around the planet when it comes to war and intimidation. The things that we do for peace and connections before nations. The things we do that work for a better world. We make those connections because we're there. And that's what Elijah is saying. That Elisha is saying about Elijah. We have another person that dropped the mantle, Martin Luther King. And I think if you ever want to read a great plan for America, I'd encourage you to read Martin Luther King's speech when he won the Nobel Peace Prize. And he had a platform. He wasn't a politician. He was a pastor, and I always make that point. People say, well, I'm going to listen to King's speeches. And I said, wait a minute, you can't understand King unless you understand he came from the church. And that he came from a perspective of faith. And he was grabbing hold of a vision that's as old as Elijah. It's as old as Abraham. To be a blessing to all the peoples of the earth. And so King said, I have the audacity to believe that peoples everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits. And he went on and he laid out this whole vision of a beloved community. And he qualified that statement. He dreamed of a day when all people would be judged by the content of their character. And they called it the audacity of hope. Can't we, in our time, in our culture, in our nation, say that no American should have to live without shelter at night? Can't we say that? Can't we say that no American should go hungry from any meal when it's needed? Shouldn't we be able to lay out a platform like that and say, come just as you are? That was the vision of Jesus. Shelter. He fed people. He lived it. And the only way the disciples knew that, the only way it made an impression on them, is he said, you give them something to eat. And he walked around with people. And the disciples followed him wherever he went. So Elijah had a platform of peace and justice that inspired Elisha. So what kind of a platform do you have in life? And who will your life inspire because of the way you live that out? We got a big King tour in Atlanta. And you're mistaken if you think that Martin Luther King's spirit is gone. Martin Luther King's spirit is stronger now than it ever was in 1968. Because he was the dreamer. And he just pointed to the dream. Elijah was just a dreamer. And Elisha pointed to the dream. Now, do you think Glenn Royer's spirit ever left this place? I don't think it did. It's alive in you somehow. But it wasn't his human interests. It wasn't his hobbies. It wasn't because he had a green thumb. It wasn't because he was a pilot in World War II. It was because he wouldn't let Jesus leave without giving him a blessing. And he hung on to that. chariots and horsemen of Israel. That's exactly why we honored Glenn when he was 90 years old. Because we know he taught civility, and he taught civilization, and we lived into it with him. So you are all teachers and healers. You are all shepherds and counselors. That is what you are. And you are indeed the defense system of the world. The world of peace and justice will never be found in missile silos or drone wars or trade wars or tariffs. It will happen in the hearts of people who intend goodwill. The mantle, the things that people leave behind. We remember these things about people who made an impression upon us. And you are indeed chariots and soldiers of a different kingdom. So our faith is really about how Jesus is our mentor. How he shared his gifts with the world. How he said, come just as you are. How he picked up the mantle of hundreds of years. So there might be somebody that you know, someone you're thinking of right now, maybe a notable person in history, maybe king, maybe someone else, someone that you admire, someone whose place is gone, someone who inspired you. I want you to think about that person and how you can pick up that mantle. A few years ago, we celebrated our Trinity UCC Covenant of Inclusion, and it was so important for us to say that because in the same way, it's not about us, it's about the mission. And so I'm going to read this, and can you make out the bold there? Okay. I got 2 slides here, and we'll read this because this is, for me, come just as you are is the logical conclusion is to be open and firm. Embracing and celebrating the face of God in all people.
Trinity United Church of Christ strives to welcome everyone without exception or exclusion into all aspects of the life of our church.
Following the example of Jesus, we welcome people of any age, economic status, ethnicity, family structure, gender identity or expression, marriage status, mental or physical ability, race, sexual orientation, theological or political tradition.
Whoever you are worthy and welcome to Trinity. We invite you to join us as we seek to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with our God.
Come just as you are, welcome and worthy. Those are words that a group of people here at Trinity crafted and fashioned for us to vote on and to make it a reality in our lives. So just this week, I could name a bunch of places that we're touching. Last night, we had a farewell party for Abby Reed. She's going with the Peace Corps to Cambodia in about a week. We got a group coming in from Germany. We're making connections with our folks in Mexico who continue to build houses and work with people who are refugees there. Our people at Pine Ridge are getting ready to go on a trip to the reservation. It goes beyond all board, all walls and all barriers. So the United Church of Christ Conference wants us to consider this thing. Why is what you are doing important to God? Positive things. Think about how much our chair thing took off. You guys been following that? We have like over 30 people decorate chairs. They're going to be on display at the picnic on July 14th. How else do you reach out into a community for civility and positive affirmations, but by having people express themselves through artwork? And it's all over our downtown area. How is it that we reach out with this message of everyone is welcome? Come just as you are. College of Worcester students have helped us out in the breakfast program. And I had great big boxes of these because this was another influence of the Martin Luther King Day celebration. That College of Worcester students took a day of service. And one of the things that they did was that they packed up health kits. And inside that kit is a bar of soap, a toothbrush, a washcloth, other things that people need on the street. And so the other thing that they did was positive. This is not just a physical thing, it's also a spiritual thing to give people dignity, like we said. Like King said, like we said in our statement. And they had all these positive affirmations on the outside of it. So I took a picture of some of them. And what I was hoping to do was to put them on a loop sometime during worship, and you could see all the positive affirmations that are going out to people who need to hear those things every day in the breakfast program. You've been assigned to this mountain to show others it can be moved. Difficult roads often lead to beautiful destinations. Don't look back. You're not going that way. That might be what Elijah was saying, you know. Don't look back. But all these things come from our attention. Come just as you are. You're welcome here. Why do we do North Street Mission? We have groups that walk around with us. They see what we do. That's all it takes. Starting with a hot meal. So Jesus walked around. That's all Jesus did. He walked around. And he loved people. And he wanted to heal people who were sick. And the disciples walked around and saw the way he lived. That was it. That's why we have the church. We just walk around together. And we see what love looks like, peace looks like. And we know all these people that embody that in their own way. They can't just understand. So all you got to do is come just as you are, because God can use you in your own way. So in the family of faith, we simply walk around together, and we accompany one another along life's path, and we remind one another what the gospel really is. The gospel is God's unconditional love for all people. And we have to have an understanding of the importance and the urgency of this. And we mentor people to create a caring community. And what the world needs is civilization and civility. Come just as you are. We're trying to do something that is very difficult and very different from anything else that people experience in the world. So take on the mantle to create a space where people are welcome and they feel wanted. Come just as you are. You are welcome and worthy at Trinity. Amen.
Thank you.
join together now in our offering prayer. Creator